heart-stopping moment as the Leaving Certificate class of St Raphaela's Secondary School in Dublin opened their results. This is the class of 2012 and they should be well set to take advantage of the smart economy. But behind the delight of their good results is the harsh reality that they may be the first generation in nearly 2 decades to face a very large bill for their college degree.
So I want to do English and History in UCD. It's very difficult because of the fees coming in. Like I know my family personally, like myself and my brother in university, so it's obviously going to put a huge strain on the family.
Now it's really a case of you need the degree to get the jobs.
The state currently spends over 400 million on college grants for 75,000 recipients, over 40% of the student population. To qualify for a full grant, you have to earn less than 41,000. That's your income, not your assets, and this is now the subject of major controversy. Minister Ruairi Quinn has set up a group to look at whether assets should be taken into account in the means test. It could decide that farm assets be included, something farmers think the government is misguided on. Tommy Cook is a dairy farmer from County Kilkenny. As an active member of the Irish Creamery Milk Suppliers Association, he's furious at the suggestion that farm assets be taken into account when applying for a college grant.
It's a big statement for the government to make, and that is what they're saying, that if you have assets, you must use those assets to educate your children. But an asset is a tool, to produce an income, and that's all it is. And to tax a farmer on their tools or any other private sector worker, it is actually a tax on their tool for creating that income. And there's nothing at all wrong with everybody being treated the same. Farmers only want to be treated the same as everybody else.
The farming community is outraged, and so too are several senior Fine Gael figures who have openly signalled their discomfort to their Labour colleagues.
It's actually opening up an old divide that I thought had long gone, with modern education, and that people nowadays, are looking, at things more globally, I would hope. But this is an old throwback, really, to an old divide that was there. And the facts speak for themselves. Farmers are correctly represented at third level. They get about the same level of grant assistance as everybody else. So what's the problem? It is actually a bigger agenda, I think, to attack people with assets. And that is an attack on private sector, an attack on enterprise.
Figures from the Higher Education Authority show that 40% of farmers' families got grants last year. This represents around 10% of all grant recipients. It's not just farmland that could be included in a means test. Self-employed business people would also have their assets taken into account. And this is not a new issue. It's a question that several governments have pondered for 20 years. In 1993, a government-commissioned report called for assets to be included as part of the grants means test. It said that the means test was defective in that it fails to take full account of ability to pay, particularly since it ignores the accumulated wealth of individuals. Some people with clearly expensive lifestyles obtain grants, while others who are very hard-pressed do not.
The perception was that people from particularly a farming background were getting more than their fair share of grants. What we recommended was that the system be changed and that in addition to an income test, you have an assets test.
With the introduction of free tuition fees for all in 1996, the issue slipped off the agenda, and the thorny question of what to do about people with considerable assets applying for grants was left untackled.
Shelves are full of actually very good reports in a whole range of areas which haven't been implemented. We might be a lot better off, in fact, if we did implement some of them. And I think that's a real issue that needs to be addressed, but it's a much broader issue than the issue of third-level grants. We had a fairly modest objective, which is the system was unfair. Could we make it better? I think the recommendations, if implemented, would make the system better.
Under current revenue rules, you can't simply buy assets to reduce your income tax bill. Large items like new software or farm machinery are calculated over 8 years. But how to address the value of assets is a complex issue affecting a lot of people.
You see the difficulty we're having collecting a property tax. Any tax system that taxes pure assets or tries to impose a tax on pure is a difficult system to collect. It's always easier in inverted commas to collect where there's real income or real gains, because at least people can say, well, I got X amount cash and the taxman demands Y in tax. But when you've got this inert asset that doesn't produce any value, your house that you're living in, why should that be ignored for grants if you're going to bring in farmland? It's a huge political issue. It's a huge discussion on where you stand on public and private education. It's not easily solved.
It is an old chestnut, and it's at least heartening to see the Minister for Agriculture coming out very strongly in opposition, or at least questioning what the Labour Party are saying. It's one of the industries that the government are depending on to grow the economy. And if you suck money out of it, you're taking the fuel out of the engine of the economy.
The class of 2012 know that the days of free fees are numbered. Whether or not assets like the family farm become part of the decision to allocate a grant could become the next political hot potato.